Bourne Board of Health meeting for May 28th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to open. And Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise their hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note this meeting is being televised and recorded by Bourne Community TV for replay. If anyone in the audience is also recording or videotaping, they need to acknowledge such at this time. All items within the meeting agenda are subject to deliberation and votes by the Board of Health. Is anybody recording on Zoom?
I'm recording from the enterprise.
Okay, thank you. So, I'm calling the meeting to order, take attendance. Miguel Prieto?
Here.
Margaret Reale?
Here.
Dusty Meyer?
Here.
Bob Collette? Here. We have one open seat. There has been a new person elected via write-in vote in the May 20 election, but he's not yet aware that he's on the board or has not yet discussed it with our health agent. So at this time, we will proceed with 4 members until further notice. So number 2, Board of Health business. A is the introduction of the new board member, which we're not doing yet tonight. We'll skip over that. And B, as we do every May, it's time to reorganize the board. So at this time, we'll entertain nominations for chairperson, vice chair, clerk, and secretary.
I'd like to nominate you, Bob, for chair.
I second it.
Okay.
No discussion.
Any other nominations? Okay. We'll take a vote on that. Margaret?
Yes.
Dusty?
Yes.
Miguel?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. And I will accept. Thank you. And nominations for vice chair. I would personally like to nominate Margaret for that.
I second that.
Okay. Very good. Can we vote on it? Aye.
Aye.
Dusty?
Voice, aye.
Okay, Miguel? Okay, that's done. And then the clerk position, whoever would take that, really, Margaret, you were the clerk this year, right? But it didn't involve any,
Right.
no responsibilities, but in case.
I guess it's
We need to
whatever
designate
you guys
somebody
want to
else.
take.
I
Okay.
nominate Kate.
She has enough to do.
Okay,
I'll nominate Miguel
okay,
for clerk.
all right. Dusty?
Yes.
Well, we second it, yes, okay. I'll second that, and then you can, we'll vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, Bob Collette, yes, okay. So Miguel is the clerk, and then secretary.
We don't have a
We
secretary.
don't have a
We didn't
second,
have a
okay, so
secretary.
those are the three, okay,
All set
3
now.
titles. All right, well, thank you, that was quick and painless. All right, so we also need a committee appointment for the wastewater advisory committee. So would anybody
Wish to?
wish to do this? Anybody volunteer?
I'm willing to do that.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Does anybody oppose that? Or does anyone else have a desire to?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's vote on that, okay? So Margaret Reale would be our wastewater advisory committee member, appointee. And
Yes.
Dusty says yes. Miguel?
Yes.
Yes. Bob Collette, yes. How efficient. Okay. All right, so advancing to agenda item number 3, 51 Pasture Road. This is a continuation from April 23rd, 2025. Bracken Engineering on behalf of owner applicant Carol Hickey, trustee of the Scraggy Neck Realty Trust, requesting relief from the Bourne Board of Health regulations to waive the current bedroom definition in order to finish the fit-out of a previously approved basement area currently under construction within an existing house. Mr. Brzezinski, representing Bracken Engineering. Hey, Zach.
Hi, for the record, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. I'm here this evening on behalf of the property owner, Carol Hickey, and the Scraggy Neck Realty Trust. So as mentioned, Rob Dubois from our office was in front of the board about a month ago presenting the project. This was a project that was in front of the board back in 2018. Conservation actually did not need any Board of Health approval at that time because we met all of the 150-foot setbacks. So the project consisted of demoing an old house and then rebuilding a new 6-bedroom house on the property with a conventional Title V septic system. So at that time, we reviewed the plan set with the health agent. It was 6 bedrooms proposed in the main structure with a potential for finishing off the basement area down below. So during construction, which happened during COVID, they went through the process, built the house, and with the builder that was there, they started the construction of the basement area. Due to delays and other circumstances during construction, they actually separated ways with the contractor, and they never finished off the basement area at that time. Homeowners had applied for an occupancy permit and were granted that. 2022, the board updated its Board of Health regulations, changed the bedroom definition at that point. So fast forward to today, Ms. Hickey and the family have applied to refinish their construction that was already started back in 2020 at that time for this basement area. And at that time, the staff flagged us coming in for a waiver to maintain, because under the current Board of Health definition, the room would meet a 7th bedroom under the local Board of Health requirements. We're asking for the waiver based on a couple of things. This is a year-round house for one resident that lives there, Carol Hickey. She's the matriarch of the family. She's there year-round. The house was designed as a connection point for the rest of the family members that come in during the summertime. The rest of the year, they don't live in the area. It's a seasonal home for the rest of the family members. The septic itself is way over-designed for one person out here with that. And the septic flow that it gets doesn't get an annual daily 700 or 660 gallons as is. So we're getting treatment with a conventional septic system based on one occupant in the house right now. This is also an area that falls in one of the NSAs that we just listened to at the previous meeting in the room. So there are some potential that they will have to update to an IA septic system down the road, but they don't know what that will be. They don't know where the town's going with the watershed plan and the comprehensive management, wastewater management plan. So they'd like some time to evaluate all of that, finish this off. And from our professional standpoint with this, the completion of the room downstairs isn't going to impact the nitrogen loading significantly in this area. It isn't going to have an impact to the watershed from what's already going in with the 6-bedroom system that was there. Previously, it was an old cesspool. We've raised the system up. We have great groundwater separation out here and center of the island, or on the backside center of the lot. The one other point to bring up, and under the actual Title V regulations, again, we're asking for relief under the local bylaw, but in Title V, there is a provision that says that a homeowner, an applicant may design a system using design flows for a smaller number of bedrooms than presumed in this definition by granting the approving authority a deed restriction. So Title V has thought about this in the past with homeowners, and when they created the code in '95 and updated it, they did give a provision if a homeowner understands that they can design for a smaller number of bedrooms than what's actually in the house. So that was part of the original 1995 code. So, but we do believe we're providing environmental treatments, we're protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the general public out here, and that the completion of this room downstairs, even though it meets the local definition, shouldn't be a bedroom under the total code, therefore requiring upgrading the whole septic system that was just installed. So based on that, I turn it back over to the board.
Okay.
If I can,
Comments?
how can we be assured of, you say one person, which is her, that during the summer, every weekend or for weeks on end, there won't be 7 people staying there, 8 people, whatever she wants?
So Title V it's designed with 2 people, with the presumption of 2 people per bedroom.
Correct.
So you have 55 gallons per bedroom with that. So it is designed for the 6 bedrooms for 12 people right
All
now.
right, I haven't got the print in front of me, but do you have 6 bedrooms there with the asking of doing that basement?
Yes.
And the fire department gave you an okay on the last go-around of applying for a permit?
Yes. They got a permit based on the 6 bedrooms here and the potential build-out on the basement. It's just they would never completed that work under the original permit.
Correct. But
So-
what my concern is, they had a ruling, not on this particular thing, for everything, that any window in a bedroom must be big enough for someone to crawl out of. So you get trapped in a fire down there. I saw the pictures. They're small windows. You can't get out. I'm not skinny. I mean, I couldn't fit through them. And they got approval from the fire department?
So yes, because they have a bulkhead out the back. They have 2 means of egress out of the room. They have
Okay.
They have the
I
means
didn't
of
see that
stairs coming
bulkhead.
down inside the house, and then the bulkhead that goes out. So there are 2 means of egress out of the room.
And just to emphasize that is the building commissioner approved that, the fire department approved that because it's not a bedroom per the building code. It's being considered a bedroom based off of our newly revised bedroom definition, which is different from.
Yes,
the-
totally. They should have a 6-foot opening and all this and that for if it's not a bedroom.
I'm glad that we've had some time since last month to read it and think about it. Because when I heard the nitrogen, I thought, oh, the nitrogen was low. But the thing is that my understanding now, as I've, thought about this and read more, is that it's not, our regulations are not based on how many people are living in the house. The septic system has to match the number of bedrooms. And now with this new, creation in the basement, it now is a 7-bedroom house. It doesn't matter. She could sell the house. She could, pass away, and so it has nothing to do with how many people are living in the house. It's how many bedrooms the house has.
How many can live in there?
Yeah, because that's what the regulation is. It's based on number of bedrooms, not number of occupants, or even the nitrogen level, which is good right now. And secondly, I was thinking about this, like, I have a house, when we put an addition on, it required a new basement. I would have liked to have, I'd have liked to have finished that basement. But we couldn't do it right then. We moved in, and then the permit's closed. It's done. So without, I could say, oh, now I want to finish my basement. And when I moved into it, the basement wasn't finished, but now I want to finish it. And, and which would create another room that would come under our definition as a basement, right? Do I get to keep my septic if it doesn't, if it's not, if, let's say I have 3 bedrooms and I have a 3-bedroom system, and now that finishing off my basement is going to make it now a 4-bedroom system. Does that mean, well, because I thought I might want to finish my basement, but they moved in, they got the occupancy, now it is it was closed. That's an old, all these plans, those are the old plans. They're not what you're doing right now. It's new. And so it's like anybody else, if they add a bedroom, you gotta upgrade the system, right? Isn't that the way it is?
And how much of an inconvenience is it for them to pull a permit for that basement bedroom?
They did pull a permit. They have a building permit. That's what triggered this.
That's what triggered this. They went to apply.
Existing back in 2020, now.
No, they have a current 2025 building permit, which is what triggered this whole
Okay,
thing.
see, we
Yep.
were not aware. I thought they were going
Nope.
for a permit.
Nope. I review all building permits, and that's what triggered this.
Yeah, because they were initially granted approval through the health department and the building inspector for a 6-bedroom house with a completed basement at that time, under the original permit. They just never finished completing the construction due to issues with the builder at the time. They separated their ways, and it was during COVID. They got the occupancy for the 6-bedroom house with the partially completed basement. So then they rehired a new contractor, brought him on board. So they were just finishing off the project that they thought they already had approval for, which they did have approval for previously with the previous building permit and the previous disposal works permit that was issued through staff.
But what canceled that, I believe, is when they asked for an occupancy permit.
What canceled it, what changed it was when the town changed its Board of Health definition under the local regulations. So the finished room under, if it was done and they had gotten into this before the regulation changed, there would be no,
Correct.
there'd be
Correct.
no conversation.
But that's the way it is,
So
for
then,
everybody,
so
right?
why we're asking for today is finishing off this room has no negligible impact, or has a negligible impact on the environment with it. There are provisions under the state code that allow for you to design for a smaller system than what is deemed the number of bedrooms in the house. So this isn't uncommon. So your question about you buy a 3-bedroom house, this happens in other communities. We do it in Plymouth, we do it in Carver, Wareham. Those communities will allow you, as long as you pass the Title V, that you can come in and put a deed restriction on it and finish off those spaces, still deem it a 3-bedroom house, have the finished space down below. So it is there. So, and in this situation, going from 6 to 7 bedrooms, it's requiring upgrade of the whole tank, expanding the leach field, everything, but there's no environmental benefit by going to that extra square footage of an extra tank with it, given how the house is currently used and how the house is used all through the year. So, again, this is a property that's been in this family for 40 years, if not longer. This is the second time they've rebuilt this house, and it's going to pass on and stay generationally with this family. So,
So can they put on a deed restriction that if they sell that house, that they have to redo that? Because you could rent that out as a B&B and anything.
yep, I mean, so what would go in titles, it would go in as, it would
Once
be
you
deed
get
restriction.
those occupancy permits, you can do whatever you want until you get caught.
A deed restriction is a condition you guys can require if you're going to grant a waiver.
Have we been in, have we ever granted such a waiver as a board? I don't recall having done that in this similar situation.
I mean, I can't
I don't
name
wanna set
one
a
off the
dangerous
top of my
precedent.
head, but yeah, we've granted, I'm not necessarily waivers, but you've granted septic system installations with deed restrictions.
Right, but for this similar situation.
I'm unsure of a waiver specifically. You've granted septic upgrades for new construction or increase of flow, for pool houses that are seasonally used or don't have conditioning and have had put a deed restriction on those. We've done that in the past. I can't think of a waiver request off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure this out because I wasn't here for this particular, the last meeting, but.
Yeah, Katie brought up a great point. We did a house recently over on Red Brook Harbor, same thing. They had a structure that could be used year-round. It was heated, everything else, but we put a deed restriction on it because it met the definition of the Board of Health requirements, but they put a deed restriction on it that they wouldn't use it as a bedroom. and
I
it was
remember
only
that one.
yeah.
That had like a garage with a room on it. Or
Garage
a
above the
pool house
top.
or something out back. Yeah, with a room up top.
Yep.
And who monitors that? So that, I mean, do they, you keep going over there and checking them, making sure they're not using it as a bedroom?
I mean, at that point, it's part of the deed, so
Yeah.
it can't be sold, it can't be listed as a 7-bedroom house.
And then.
In that
also-
instance, who's monitoring every basement in the
Right,
town of Bourne,
right,
so.
Of course, I'm just asking. And would they have to the 6-foot wide opening, would that apply to the, come under that? That they would, have the opening into this room could not be, a bedroom-sized opening, but have to be at least 6 foot?
So with this being on a separate level from the rest of the house, that's not really what is applicable here. If you're asking for a 6-foot cased opening, you're putting a 6-foot cased opening from a conditioned room to an unconditioned room, which would negate the conditioning of the room.
Is there,
So this room has stairs that come right down, and it goes
Yep.
right into the open area that's all finished off, so.
So yeah, that's what's classifying the privacy and the separation is the stairwell. A 6-foot cased opening wouldn't change that.
Change it.
Okay.
It's a unique situation with it.
Yeah.
So.
I feel sorry for her, and I don't feel sorry for her. It would have been a small expense of what she spent to redo this house to finish that basement, but.
But it was previously approvable under the old definition as it
Right.
was. Mhm.
I have a question for the chairman.
Yes.
I have to give you a disclaimer. Last time we had this discussion, I abstained because I am the person's living their physician. I've been her physician for over 10 years, so I don't know if I can comment or ask questions, but I will abstain on the vote. Can I ask a question or no?
Yes.
So the question is this: if such a waiver is granted, and then when the time comes, based on the location of the property, which is close to the critical area that you need to upgrade the system, will they be able to upgrade just to a 6-bedroom system, or they will be forced to do a 7 since the board is granting a waiver?
Well, we don't know if the board is granting a waiver, but that's a great question, because it's possible within the next few years that they would be required to upgrade it anyway to comply with the new, the new standards that are coming forth. So, it's something else for us to consider as a board. Yes.
So I can respond to that, Miguel. Most likely, the upgrade for this would be a Sepitech system, being in the NSA. So it would have the same size unit as a 6-bedroom or a 7-bedroom unit, is the same flows through that same type of system. So the only benefit that we're asking for the relief on now is not having to expand the leaching field, which is a big impact area on this.
Yeah,
So once they figure out the requirements for this, she's still getting the same treatment through the septic. If it's a 7-bedroom or a 6-bedroom, it's the same unit that would be given the same treatment through it. And again, those systems are all designed on theoretical flows that come through them. The nitrogen septic systems do not work if you're not getting flow through them.
Right.
So being a single person in this house for
Right.
90% of the year, you're not getting the treatment out of a septic system for it because you're not providing the waste that it needs in it. So that's why I'm saying, like, with what we have with the 6-bedroom, finishing off this basement, there is no environmental improvement by making this a larger septic tank, larger leaching field going to 7 bedrooms than what you're currently getting with the 6-bedroom system that's already there.
And so that would also remain true if, at the inevitable date, that more people occupy that home.
Yeah, because the nitrogen removal in these systems happens within the actual mechanical components of the septic tanks, everything from there. You get very minimal nitrogen removal through the actual leach field. You get a minute underneath it, and this one here has a footprint that's very large, gets air to it. So expanding it to a 7-bedroom, you're not going to get any extra nitrogen removal through that system as is.
Katie, do you have anything to add?
I mean, with that point, I think if the board were to entertain granting a waiver for this, I would shy away from a deed restriction or granting or waiving the bedroom definition, whereas I would just grant a waiver for continuing the existing use of the system to accommodate what was previously approved by the health department. I wouldn't say that there's not 7 bedrooms, and I wouldn't put a deed restriction saying it's not a bedroom, so that way, if it were to have to be upgraded, the board could require a 7-bedroom septic system for that upgrade.
Right.
If that's what made them comfortable.
One of my concerns here is that others who have not been granted such.
Right, precedent.
Yeah, I don't want to set a precedent by which could trigger people coming back to us and,
Yes.
or any, legal
That's,
issues.
I wouldn't waive specifically from the regulation, but more as you're granting a waiver to continue use of the existing septic system to accommodate what was previously approved. And that would just that would be what the waiver was for.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Or if somebody's ready to make a motion, or what have you, one way or another.
I'm not ready to make a motion. Yeah, I wish there was some way to make, connect it so that, okay, so we're saying, okay, this is okay because this is, at this point, there's one person living here, and the system is not being used to capacity. But if that should change, then, you know, we've approved it, and it could change drastically, and it could change quickly, I mean, and, but I understand what you're saying. I am aware that if like, I wasn't even saying it had to be an IA system, but, you know, an IA system, if it's not being used consistently, that is not the best thing either.
But also with this instance is if you guys did not if you did not grant a waiver, that would be considered adding a bedroom, increasing flow. They're in the McGansett Squeaky watershed, so that would trigger automatic banner upgrade to nitrogen removing technology today.
But Zach, you can answer me. With one person there on a Title V system, if you don't use a Title V system, you know, with X amount of liquids flow or whatever in there, the microbes don't
Doesn't
work.
work that well either.
Right? So she may have trouble to begin with.
I mean, under conventional septic, it's the sludge buildup over time. With this type of situation, she wouldn't have to pump this system every 2 to 3 years like a typical single-family house.
Right.
You're not getting the sludge buildup, everything's being eaten up inside the septic tank itself. So the system is working in accordance with Title V, and it is giving the treatment, it's treating the bacteria
She's
through it.
presently there, living
She's
there.
presently, year-round. Yep.
So she would have had a problem already.
Uh,
if-
If that system fails with just her using it, I better run for the hills and give up my engineering license.
Do me a favor, don't flush on your way out.
And to your point about flow as well, Margaret, is, you know, when Rob was here last month to discuss this, he brought up the nitrogen loading calculations for it at the time of design. And you comment on how low those were. Those were based off of a 660 gallon per day flow, whereas that's not what we're getting right now. We're getting, what, 55?
Yeah,
55 gallons per day
That-
for that one person. So, I mean, I don't think you'd see the nitrogen loading increasing drastically if 5 more people moved in, if 6 more people moved in.
Okay.
You looking for an answer?
Yes? Should.
If I can make a motion, please. 51 Pasture Road, continue from April 23rd, 2025. Rockin' Engineering on behalf of owner applicant Carol Hickey, trustee of the Scraggy Neck Realty Trust, requesting relief from the Bourne Board of Health regulations to waive the current bedroom definition in order to finish the fit-out of a previously approved basement area currently under construction within an existing house. And
You move yes or no?
yes.
Yes. I'm not gonna second that.
And we can discuss the motion.
Okay. Because Kate has suggested that we not waive the bedroom definition.
Well, that's what I
Yeah,
would
so you
like to talk to Katie. I don't want a waiver to go on the books and then other people, you know, hit us with that later on.
Yeah, so I mean, the motion could read differently as a motion to approve a waiver for the continued use of the existing septic system to accommodate the basement work previously approved by the health department.
Now, the permit they pulled for that downstairs down there, did they take a permit for a bedroom or as just
It's
playroom?
just continued work on the finished basement.
That's how they pulled it. I wish Ken was here.
Per Ken's definition, it's not a bedroom, per the building code. As you said, there's no full windows.
See, it's hard to
There's a secondary
digest
egress,
where
but-
6-foot
Bedroom's
opening,
not
if
considered
it
bedroom
isn't
to
a
the
bedroom, is
little
jammed down our throats, and
Right, well, would you like to restate the motion, reframe it in some way?
they can't, that's a concrete wall, isn't it? They can't make, yeah, that's what I thought from the first
Oh, it's a
go
full
around.
poured
we had.
foundation system.
So to make it that way, a 6-foot opening would be unbelievably.
Well, the stairway comes down, it's a big wide open space, so to,
Is it 6 foot?
sounds like it's a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't, I mean, it's the privacy.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
it's-
someone comes down those stairs, you're not providing privacy, like a typical.
Yeah,
It's like
whether-
walking to the top of a stairs
Right.
into an area.
Yeah.
It's the same situation.
Got a certain catch-22 here. But I can understand now that you explained more of this. The first go-around, we're like this, what are you talking about?
He stepped in for me.
Yeah, well, we figure everyone needs a vacation sometime in life. So how would you? Well, no, I already stated my thing because,
Well, the way, if we read from here, we're saying no, that we don't want to waive our definition. We don't want to waive our definition.
Right.
Of what, but what we're going to, so, and that's what the request is that we'd waive the definition of a bedroom.
why can't we just
And so-
approve the building permit?
So we
I
say,
think what Ms. Shea said, just the waiver to maintain using the existing system.
Drop the waiver.
Yeah, just,
No, the waiver is the correct terminology. The application is for a waiver from
the Board of Health
whatever.
regulations,
Board of Health
Bedrooms. It
regulations,
says the
doesn't matter
bedroom
which
definition.
ones.
not the bedroom definition.
Yeah.
so we could, but we can do that. We can change that.
Yes, you don't have to go based off of that exact
Okay.
thing. You can
So-
make your motion however you see fit.
So we would move that we, to allow 51 Pasture Road to continue to use the current system, that we approve that,
Yeah.
you know. What-
I feel comfortable with that because Zach said it'll handle 7 bedrooms. And so whatever they use it for after they leave here is their business.
The system is for 6 bedrooms. Is for
6 bedrooms.
6 bedrooms, right. And so we could move to allow the 51 Pasture Road to continue to use their current system.
Is that legit?
Yeah.
We're not waiving our,
We
we're not
dropped
waiving
that
our
word,
bedroom
waiver.
definition, we're just, you know, according to what's been described, that, you know, just approve it. Is there anything that has to be added to that as a motion?
Just that you guys are allowing the use of the existing system at 51 Pasture Road to accommodate the work as proposed.
Yes,
Yes.
I make that motion.
Second. And I have to rescind my
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Okay.
So Dusty's motion is rescinded. Miguel?
I abstain because I
Oh, you're not voting. Okay. I'll vote yes.
All good?
Okay?
All right.
Zach, sorry for dragging you through this,
Oh.
but I was totally confused.
Yeah, it's a unique situation, so, and I thank you for
Yeah.
considering it. Appreciate it.
There were a lot of questions, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. All right. Agenda item number 4, 22 Marsh Pond Road. Discussion and possible vote on noncompliance violations regarding trailer and camper regulations due to 2 trailers currently on the property which may have inhabitants. Enforcement letters were sent on April 1st, April 9th, and May 7th, 2025. Katie?
Yeah, sure. So, the occupants of 22 Marsh Pond were notified, of that occupying a trailer, not within a licensed campground is a violation on April 1st, 2025. They were reminded on April 9th, 2025, and further enforcement letters were sent on May 7th, when it was confirmed a second trailer had been placed on the property. At this time, the occupant wasn't, at that time of the enforcement letter, we notified them that they would have to vacate and provide proof of that by May 14th, or be placed on the May 28th agenda for further enforcement. As of today, we have no documentation or correspondence with them. So we are here today to discuss next steps with you guys. Pursuant to Board of Health fine regulation and Mass General laws, the board may fine the party responsible for failing to complete the orders to correct. Each day's failure to correct a violation shall constitute a separate violation. The violation fines per the regulation are a second offense within any continuous 12-month period of $100, a third offense $200, and any subsequent $300. Daily fineage can be difficult.
Those are daily fines,
Yes.
correct?
Yep. So, I mean, the board could modify that to their liking, if that's what they choose to do. In similar situations, we have done, tonight you would levy your first fine of $100, and then every subsequent week we would do
Go up.
an additional fine after that.
One question. Did they have any fines from the previous offenses that we levied?
No, because we had deemed the property uninhabitable for, emergency safety concerns. So they were just told to vacate the premises within a specific time frame. No fines were levied, specifically because the people who we've been in contact with are not the homeowners as well. So they're not necessarily responsible for any fines associated with the actual dwelling.
And so he moved out of the house, moved into his trailer that's on the property. And is the trailer hooked up to anything?
There is a generator on the property. I don't know if it's running to the trailer itself. It does look like it's running into the house, but we haven't noticed any lights within the actual dwelling. They are definitely not connected to the septic, so that is one of my biggest concerns, is where they're dumping their waste.
Yeah.
Also, the whole point of, us deeming the residence unfit for human habitation was because it didn't have running water, electricity, heat, a viable septic system, because there was no water, and that's exactly what they're living in these trailers as well.
I thought, I've been told before that you cannot park an RV component on your property and live from it.
Correct. Your Board of Health regulation stipulates that you can only occupy a trailer within a licensed campground, not on private property.
Correct.
And there are also zoning bylaws that prohibit where you can place a trailer on your property as well.
Well, I say I make a motion to start assessing them, because maybe they won't pay it, I imagine, but it gives you grounds to work off of.
Next steps as well, yeah.
Right. We need to start some, the next level of enforcement, no question about it. I just don't know where it goes from there, because I don't anticipate that they
That's my
will.
question as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably need to fine, but it's that, we don't have much, we've talked about this before, we don't have a lot of authority.
At this point, we would start the assessing of the fines, and if things did not progress, we would use town council to maybe start a legal proceedings. I've talked with our finance director as well about a possible tax taking, even just a demand letter to maybe stimulate someone, just do something for the property itself, because we haven't seen any traction with them turning the utilities back on. So those are routes that we're looking to take that will take a long time if we won't see immediate results. But those are our next steps.
Right.
Michelle, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
What was the result of contacting the zoning enforcement officers you mentioned on the letter dated May 7th, 2025?
Yes, the zoning enforcement agent is Ken Murphy, the building commissioner. Him and Stacy went on a joint site visit to the property to verify the trailer locations, and he was going to follow up with his own enforcement. I'm unsure of if or when that did happen. He would have sent violation letters of the trailer's location.
He would copy you on those?
Not necessarily, but I could probably look it up in their system.
Yeah, okay. Because if they're being fined, it would
On
make
both
sense for
fronts.
us to know if everybody's finding
Yeah.
them, you know.
His
because-
typical first step is just to notify them
Yeah.
and have them contact him about the zoning violations, and then further enforcement would happen after that.
Which you do by registered mail, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I would maybe initiate discussions with town council about possible tax taking as well. You said that they hadn't paid taxes in like 5 years, right, or
2019, yeah.
6 years now. So I don't know at what point that becomes a viable option. It would seem that after 6 years, the town could go in and begin those proceedings and move from there. I'd rather take more of an aggressive approach at this point in time because they clearly they're not respecting or caring about what our previous decisions and actions have been.
Ask another question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are we allowed to notify the authorities? Because this is a clear violation, just like when the fire department was notified before and the police department. Can we also do that?
So with the enforcement of the, deeming the property unfit for human habitation, the specific wording deemed the dwelling unfit for human habitation, which allowed us to contact the police department for removal if people were violating that. With them not being in the dwelling, that doesn't pertain to this. That could be something you guys include in further enforcement for this specific violation, because it's a different violation.
So the police department is there to enforce the current laws. This is a law that already existed. We're not putting this we're not legislating anything. We're just asking them to enforce this. Because it seems to me that this is a hazardous situation.
Yep, if the Board of Health votes on such a motion, it's something that could be asked, yes.
Can I ask, don't we have to get a court order to give them our just voice is?
That's something I'd have to ask town council if, with this not being the dwelling that we deemed unfit, do we have to go a different route? And does that involve legal proceedings first?
Yeah, and Dion hasn't investigated the conditions, because I imagine they don't let anyone in those RVs.
No.
Right.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
they
all
wouldn't be
she can do.
required to necessarily, so.
Yeah.
So is it kind of like starting over, in a sense?
Yeah, it's a separate offense, yeah. So the unfit for human habitation in the dwelling
Right, he's
was
not in there anymore.
specifically for the dwelling, specifically related to the lack of those utilities that are required for human habitation.
Sounds like it's a game.
Whereas
that-
these this is a violation of the Bourne Board of Health trailers and campers regulation. So it's a separate offense, yes.
So what are the current guidelines? I apologize, I don't know the answer to this. The current guidelines for assessing fines when there's repeated, because there are 3 notices, so there are 3 violations of our notifications, and they're not doing anything. So I know, like, for example, when they were selling the tobacco to minors, like if it was first offense, it was a second offense, third offense. Is there a specific pattern that we need to follow?
So the Board of Health fine regulation for miscellaneous regulation violations stipulates a first offense in a 12-month period would be, a second offense within a 12-month period would be $100 in a Board of Health meeting. Since we didn't have a Board of Health meeting because I was notifying them of the violation and giving them a chance to come into compliance, this meeting would be our second offense. And so it would be our second offense with a board meeting and a fine of $100. A third offense within that 12-month period would be $200, and any subsequent offenses within 12 months would be $300.
Okay, well, I'm ready to make a resolution, unless there are any further comments.
No,
No, so go ahead.
go right ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to make a resolution on 22 March 1 about non-compliance and second violation of the zoning properties, the zoning regulation that they should not have a trailer inhabited within a private lot, despite 3 letters being sent. So I propose that we assess the fine of $200 and we notify the authorities of the violation of such zoning regulations.
Okay, and how about also, Miguel, if you could add in initiating contact with town council about how to proceed with a tax taking?
Okay.
A tax taking of the property by the town.
Actually, okay, so may I add that, or do I need to rescind and make a new resolution?
You can just amend to add a new portion.
So I'd like to amend the previous resolution with, since no property tax has been paid to the town since 2019, to add a tax lien and contact town council to see what options are available for the town. Do you agree with that, Bob?
Sure.
Okay.
Any other discussion, further discussion on the motion?
That's good. I second it.
Okay. Margaret seconds. Dusty?
Yes.
Yes. Bob? Colette? Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Miguel. Okay. Moving on. Any public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes, I just want to express my gratefulness to Michelle and the rest of the team for the health and wellness event that we held at the Fossil Center. Unfortunately, we did not have all the traffic that I was hoping for, and I was just gonna bring up with more to see for next year if we could do it during Canal Day. That will increase the traffic. The other question that I had was if we can use not the main pavilion, that was great, but what if we use the pavilion by the canal, of those smaller? I don't know if that belongs to the town or for the U.S. Corps of Engineers.
The one down by, like, the actual, like, trail?
By the canal, yes,
Yeah.
that there is that. Some people do like, you know.
That one is Army Corps owned, but I don't foresee that us having so many challenges we did for the canal space as we do for just the pavilion space.
Yes.
So I can look into what's required for that.
Okay, because I think that we should separate, 5K was really, the logistics, I just didn't have time to do that, organize that, first responders and so on. But if we just do the health event and we can try to organize the 5K at a different date. Because, you know, the people that run it, they're hardcore and they'll go if it's cold. Yeah.
Right. I was very happy that you had put that together, Miguel, and I felt terrible about the weather. And I came by at about 11 o'clock, and I saw that nobody was around. I think, wow, it got rained out.
Well, it ended at 11.
Oh, it ended at 11. I had
That's
to work
okay.
that morning, and I thought it was going to be like going on for
I mean,
a few hours.
for the nasty weather,
Yeah.
we did have some people there, and it was a lot of fun.
So anytime you organize an event like that, you know, you learn what works and what doesn't,
Yeah.
and you can make corrections moving forward or adjustments, and I think it's really something we should embrace as a board, moving, and just keep going with it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And especially maybe looking to warmer weather. You said Canal Day. I'm not sure. This is not a criticism. I completely agree that we should do it. I'm not sure it will work out with Canal Day. Maybe you've looked into it, Miguel, and you know more. But they may be using, some of those facilities for, so it might not mix. But I think definitely a time around that, when it's warm and sunny, a lot of people on the Cape, I think we should definitely do it again. We did learn a few things.
Yeah, I thought about the Canal Day. The main challenges will be, I don't know if the town rents out space to the food trucks or people to put tents.
Yeah,
So like,
Yeah.
then.
It might work, it might work.
That.
I just thought they might be wanting to use I was thinking the pavilion too, and I don't know about the pavilion you're suggesting.
Yeah. So, the Canal Day is a Chamber of Commerce event, not a Town of Bourne event. And so they have a specific map on their tents, essentially. And so each vendor or group would have their tent. And
So maybe we could ask.
if
to
we
be
could
one.
ask the chamber
Okay,
if like they could give us 2 spots so we could spread out a little bit and have
Okay.
some things that we offer.
All right,
But
great.
still focusing on the same ideas.
And when is Canal Day? Is that in September?
September, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be funny because people will be coming in with their beers and hot dogs to talk about plant-based.
And they'd spit it all out.
You can have some plant-based hot dogs.
Yeah.
I think that would be good to, September, because to continue to have the Upper Cape involved. I thought they were great.
Yep.
And they want to be involved. And they'll be back in school, which I
Yep.
think if it was in the middle of the summer, then.
It's harder, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. All right, so it was a good start for that, and thank you again, Miguel, for all of your hard work, and to Katie, and we look forward to discussing that event throughout the next year. Or throughout the maybe, you're talking about this fall?
Do you think maybe
or-
even this September?
This fall next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Okay.
yeah, Canal Day's pretty planned out by now,
Yeah,
yeah.
right, right. Okay. All right, so agenda item number 6, the Health Director's Report.
Yeah, so I just want to give you guys a little update on our opioid and substance use needs assessment and implementation plan. We had our last community listing session on May 19th. And AHP just kind of sent us their draft strategic plan as well that the advisory committee is now going over, and we'll provide some feedback in the next 2 weeks to them. And then that final plan will be presented to the select board in July. But I thought I'd give you guys a little bit of background on what was found in the needs assessment. So we had so many things done. Oh my goodness. Here we go. So from our needs assessment, which included qualitative and quantitative analysis, we identified community strengths within the town, which included a strong cross-sector collaboration, education system support for at-risk populations, active network of service providers, and a decreasing stigma around substance use in our town. Some challenges that were highlighted were transportation barriers to accessing services, economic and housing instability, a low community resilience, which they kind of describe as, we had some momentum with specific services or programs, and then, a lot of it might have happened during COVID as they kind of shut down, but then they didn't come back afterwards. So just identifying that within ourselves, some gaps in treatment availability, and a limited culturally responsive resources in our town. So from what they found, our consultants identified priority focus areas that we needed to work on for our strategic planning, which included improved transportation access to reduce barriers to behavioral health services, enhance resource navigation to connect people with harm reduction, treatment, and recovery services, implement youth prevention education using evidence-based programming, reduce stigma around medications for opioid use disorder, particularly in healthcare treatment and recovery settings serving older adults, and expand access to harm reduction training services for full-time and part-time residents. So that's where our strategic planning was around based off of those key focus areas. And we picked about 5 targeted strategies that we were passionate about, that we thought we could make happen in this first year of work we're going to be doing, at least get it started. And we'll see how that looks in the strategic planning process in a couple weeks. Any questions on that? And I provided you guys the actual
Yep.
needs assessment, and Miguel, I can email you a copy as well. And so that's what we based our strategic planning off of.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Okay, number 7, comments from the board regarding future agenda items, if any? Suggestions for any at this time?
We kind of talked about, this, I have a question, let's see,
Sure.
but I've lost my question. It's about, actually, are there any other, subcommittees? Because last year, when we joined, there was a, I swim subcommittee, I believe, that Dusty was on. Is that off? Is that, I mean, closed out? Is that
It's-
happening anymore?
It was not brought up for me to put a vote to it based off from the clerk's office. So
Do they need anybody for that?
as of right now, Dusty still sits on it
Okay.
if they were to
I
convene
see
a
what you're
meeting.
saying, okay.
But with it not being as active as it previously was, it's not necessary that we place a member.
And are there any other subcommittees that,
We had the housing subcommittee, that was for a staff member, and they just renewed me because I was the existing health
Okay.
agent.
it's not
Okay.
really new business, but.
Oh, well, thank you, that's good, that's stuff that we should be aware of, but see, they've been, some of those committees have been inactive, right? So it hasn't really been sort
Yeah,
of the
I didn't know
forefront
if
of
they
our
were, as you
thinking.
say, if they were inactive, why,
Yeah.
but they just are continuing, there's no need for, to vote on them.
Right. Anybody else with any comments? Dusty? Miguel? Okay, do we have minutes to approve here?
Looks like there's 4 sets in your packet.
Okay. Maybe we got- Ninth.
February 26th, March 12th, March 19th, and April 9th. That
Yeah.
sounds right to you guys?
Yeah.
March 12th and 19th.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from February 26th. Very well done.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Margaret?
Yes,
And Bob, yes. Okay.
I'd like to approve the minutes from March 12th, 2025.
second it?
Okay. Miguel?
Yes?
Okay. Bob, yes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from March 19th.
I second.
Okay. Dusty?
So, agreed.
Yes. Bob, yes. Okay. And then the last one will be April 9th. What would I like to?
And I'll make,
I just need to make a motion to not approve April 9th because my name is not included and I was present on that.
oh, boy.
Okay.
Fix that.
Oh, April, oh, that's further on, yeah.
April 9th. Oh, yeah. Okay, so,
We had I let it go by, which I shouldn't have. Can I make a comment about today's meeting, CWMP, the CWMP? If it could be brought in the evening in a larger place with a better microphone. If we were out there, we got a lot of garbage. DEP, you couldn't understand 2/3 of his sentence or anything, and even MJ, it was bad. And if we have it in the evening, there's gonna be a lot more people, because they'll be off work.
Yeah.
And it does affect a lot of people. That's why I'd like to see it any future.
Yeah, and I think Anne Marie made a good point there, was that, you know, that was their workshop, which they typically do at 3 PM, and it's to discuss what there is going to be on an agenda, and then it gets brought to a select board meeting at 7 PM. So this was just
Our prime,
highly publicized more on social media, so people wanted to be here, which is great. We'd love to see actual town representation at meetings and to have their voices heard, as it is, they're the ones that are affected by it. so-
correct, money-wise.
Yeah, well, just in general, I mean, because if the town adopts to do something that includes town funding, that's taxes for everybody, not just the people who are affected, so.
And the thing about it, nobody's mentioned about any federal financing, state financing for people who are affected. I'm lucky. We have sewerage on Taylor's Point. And I wish the whole town was sewered, to be honest with you. Homeowners wouldn't have to deal with it. Just pay the bill.
$125,000 a person.
But it's
For
not in
household.
one well.
I know, you're right, I know, I agree with you.
Yarmouth is in the process right now.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we need to finish so are we going to amend the April 9th?
Yeah,
Minutes?
I'll go through it and amend it, and make sure that there's nothing else missing, any of Miguel's comments either, so.
We're bringing that back
I'll
at the
bring it
next
back.
meeting? Yeah, okay. All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I
need
make a motion to
okay.
adjourn.
All right,
Second.
okay. Miguel?
Aye.
Aye. Bob? Aye. Thank you, everybody.